everybody, this is part 1 in my tutorial on setting up your files for limited color printing. In this tutorial, we'll be setting up spot colors in a single Photoshop file using channels. So what is limited color printing? Limited color printing is when an offset printer is set up to only print with 2 to 3 inks on press, where full color printing is using 4 inks, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and one color printing is using 1 ink. Limited color printing sits between those two. And the inks are coming from color libraries like Pantone or True Match. There are a number of benefits with using this printing technique. The first of which is that you get consistent color throughout the book. When you print in CMYK, the offset printer needs to run continuously and monitor its inks and make adjustments throughout the print run. So no matter what, pages printed in CMYK are going to have slight variations from print to print because of the self-adjustments on the press. But with spot colors, the pre-mixed inks allow for a subtle consistency that allows for a very pleasant reading experience. The other big benefit of limited color printing is spot inks allow for colors that are outside the CMYK spectrum. Out of visible light, the range of colors that CMYK can reproduce is actually quite limited. Colors like orange and purples don't print well in CMYK, but spot inks, on the other hand, can reproduce incredible versions of colors that CMYK isn't capable of. And then today what we're going to do is we're going to set up our art file for limited color printing. This technique is going to be using spot channels, which is great because it allows for a very easy workflow with beautiful results. As always, I'm going to be working in Photoshop, which will be the best software to set everything up. So I'm going to go into my project folder, and I'm going to grab my inks, and then I'm going to open my 2-color sample file here. All right, so now that we're in here, it's good for us to just see how Photoshop works. And one of the things about Photoshop is every document needs to be in a defined color space. And so to see what that is, you go to Image and Mode, and you can see this document is set up as grayscale. If we wanted to work in RGB, red, green, and blue for all things screen, we can change that here. You can see up here in the tab, the color space is defined. If we wanted to change it to CMYK, same thing, and in the tab it changes. But for our purposes today, we are going to be working in grayscale. Now, the next thing we should look at are the channels, and this is the most important part of this tutorial. So to get to our channels, what we need to do is we go down to Window and Channels. And then right now, my window is down here on the bottom right, but that's going to vary from computer to computer. And if you notice here that it is showing just the gray channel, because that's what our document is only set up to have, is one channel of color, gray. Now, if I were to change this to CMYK, you'll see the channels here are now showing the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and then a channel that shows all 4 colors at the same time. So the channels is actually showing what colors the document is set up to use. Now, let's look at our layers. To get to our layers, we're going to go down to Window, Layers, and this is going to be exactly what you're used to working in Photoshop. So when you're inking and you want to have a folder for your background and then another folder for balloons or whatever, you can organize your inks exactly as you want and or need to in the layers panel as you traditionally would. So now we want to add our second color. Now to do that, we're going to go to our channels And then we're going to hit the little option area in here in the upper right and select New Spot Channel. Now, I'm getting a pop-up here that has a Pantone color already filled in and a color. If you want to change that color, you would just hit this little swatch, and then you're going to get right to the color library. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, most likely this is what you're going to see. You're going to see the traditional Photoshop color picker. To get to the color libraries, you'll see the button for color libraries here in the upper right. Just click on that. And then you can actually choose which library you want to use up here in the upper left. So True Match, Pantone, etc. I'm going to stick with the Pantone. And then you can choose your color from there. So let's say I want to get a nice bright purple, and I hit OK. And then our first pop-up is going to be here, and it's going to change the name and the color. We're going to hit OK a second time, and now we have added our second color. So I would say the easiest thing to do is to think of the channels layer as almost like just mask layers. So kind of treat it the same way as you would on your layers panel. If you want to paint in this color, you have the Pantone or your second color selected, and then just get a brush, and it's going to work seemingly exactly the same as if you were working on layers panel. So you can choose what kind of brush you want to paint with. You choose the opacity. So right here I have 50% opacity. So if I want to, I can add a color to my flower. And then if I want to change the opacity, maybe this flower, I'm going to do 75%. And then maybe bring it up to 100%. So you have all the same freedoms that you normally would. And then what you can do is you can toggle between the channels panel to do your color, and then the layers palette to adjust to your inks. That's pretty much it. This is, in my opinion, probably the easiest way to work with two colors in a single document. I think it's important to note that this is only one way to play with spot channels, and only one way to actually do this technique. Photoshop is a very layered and capable program, and slight variations of the settings will yield slightly different results, not only in the printing, but it'll also affect your workflow as well. So it's worthwhile to play around to see what works best for you. Just keep in mind that if you are working with a publisher or a group of other artists in a collective and you're doing a Kickstarter program, let everybody know that you're experimenting and talk to them and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And in some cases, if you can run tests, run some tests. But that's pretty much it. This is two color setup using a single file, and I'll see you around.